Okay, I think we can start now. So, again, everyone, welcome to the Open Applied Linguistics Reading Club. Today is our Meet the Authors series. We are very honored to have Professor Sible Andringa from University of Amsterdam joining us to talk about Diamond is a scientist's best friend, counteracting systematic inequality and commercialization in open access publishing. So today's agenda will be that first there will be an interview with the author. This part will be recorded. And the second part will be a free Q&A where you feel free to discuss anything you want to bring out to the discussion. And this part won't be recorded. So let me introduce Professor Sible Andringa. He's an applied linguist who specializes in second language acquisition and bilingualism. He investigates the added value of explicit information and instruction for second language learning, how distributional features of the input affect language learning outcomes, and what role awareness plays in language learning trajectories. He also takes a keen interest in bi- or multilingual development in educational setting. He values transparency and openness in research and strongly believes that collaboration leads to research of higher methodological rigor and impact. So welcome, Sibyl, for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you very much for having me. It's a great honor.
Okay, and maybe let's start with a little bit about you. So what initially inspired you to explore open science practices in the field of applied linguistics?
That's a good question and a difficult one, to be honest. If I think back, I'm not entirely sure what started me being involved in open science. I don't think there's a defining moment, but there's lots of things that were going on. Of course, the field pushing for open science, but also working with PhD students and developing practices of open science, because I really think open science is also something you have to learn. I also had to learn it and still have a lot to learn when it comes to open science. And so we've had lots of conversations in our teams on, okay, how shall we do this? What are the possibilities here? And so that's the thing. There's one book that really opened my eyes, and that's Chris Chambers' book, The 7 Deadly Sins of Psychology, where he discusses all kinds of things about how we should conduct as researchers, and that was a very important book to me, and that really started, I think, changing my own practices as well. It's also my involvement in the OASIS database. I'm not sure if people know it, but the OASIS database is the open accessible summaries database that we try to produce to make our research accessible to audiences beyond academia. And there too, we've had lots of discussions about the importance of research being accessible and so open. And then, of course, being a member of DUJAL, which is the Dutch Journal of Applied Linguistics, so the editor of that journal. And of course, being in an editorial board, you have to think about open science and how you want to relate to open science and open science practices. So I think that's all of these things somehow have shaped me into where I am now.
Yeah, I'm glad to hear that there's no decisive moment, but gradually getting more involved in this. It's about a book or the OASIS initiative and the opportunity to join an editorial board of a Diamond Open Access journal. I like how it's actually how people in our field gradually get involved in open science as well. So, for example, this international network, Open Applied Linguistics, is trying to give people to get to know open science more step by step?
Yeah. I was going to add that meetings like these are really very important. I think they're really helpful. As I said, open science is not something you can just do by the click of your fingers. It's something you really need to. It's a practice you need to develop and learn. Yeah, good initiative, and I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, and
so maybe I'll just jump in and then proceed to the next question. But maybe before we delve into the next question, I would like to encourage the audience, to feel free to turn on your camera or raise your hand if you want to respond to something that Sible said, or something that came to mind when you were listening to the conversation. So after we've learned a little bit about the background, back then I was just busy typing the links. Later I'll share the links of the book and the OASIS database, as well as the link to the journal that Sible just mentioned, and I highly recommend them to all of you. And now perhaps we can move to to this article in specific. So what is your sort of motivation or motive for writing this article?
Yes, I think that really was motivated by the editorship that I'm doing for the Dutch Journal of Applied Linguistics, and which is a very small and insignificant journal that really tailors very much to the field of Dutch applied linguistics. So much of what you'll find there is particularly relevant to the Dutch context, even though we are interested in broader things and try to publish more. But being in that board, we were initially with a commercial publisher, Benjamin's, and we felt stuck in ways that we didn't want to be into. For example, we were closed access, and it was quite clear that we wanted to change that. And initially, we actually flipped the journal to open access with Benjamin's, but then we were still not happy with what we were getting. We were asked to do things that we didn't want to do, that we didn't feel was relevant to our work, but was very much relevant to the publisher's work and their interests, which are commercial interests. So as an editor, you would do lots of things that I thought, I don't want to be doing this, or I don't want to work in a system that doesn't work for us, which was also, for example, having to publish 2 issues a year, which was difficult for us being a small journal with a very small market. And this was all because they already sold the journal in advance to libraries. So we had to meet that demand, which is very difficult, and we ended up accepting things we didn't want to accept. And then so we decided to step out, and that very process. So this process of being with this publisher and the difficulties we experienced, but also the very open access movement, the experience of flipping, all the attention and also the kinds of interest that generated. All these things actually led to this article that Maria Moss and I initially authored, and then we were then joined by the entire editorial board, whom all have been very helpful and important in putting this together and putting our thoughts together in terms of everything that we've experienced and everything that we want to be and that we feel that the field should be like. Yes, if I may, by the way, the article, I don't know if people saw, but just last week we published 10 responses. So we invited people to respond to the article, and we've had very nice responses that are really worth reading. By Yu Meng, you've written a very interesting response. But also people like Emma Marsden, Ali Al-Houri, Luke Plomsky on open access books. We also had our library open access librarian of the UvA, who's written a very interesting piece as well, I think, Pascal Braak. And so I think there's for those interested, there are interesting commentaries for you to read if you're interested. Does that answer your question, Meng?
Yes, very much so. And also, I'm really glad you mentioned the responses. So here, I guess I can sort of shamelessly plug our next part of the event. So we will be inviting the authors of the responses, and then have this whole series actually focused on Diamond OA and people's different perspectives. Yeah.
Oh, so you're going to invite the respondees?
Yes. Yes.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
We're still in the process of inviting them because we only recently learned about who are the authors of the responses.
Yeah. We kept that a secret. Yeah.
Yeah, but it was really interesting. I've heard a lot of positive comments from people who have seen the set of responses. We have a really diverse sort of range of perspectives. So I'm again, thank you so much for doing the work and for organizing this very interesting special issue.
Yeah, thank you so much for Sible for being able to initiate the discussion of Diamond Open Access. So one of the major theme of both the article and this event is how special and what is special about Diamond Open Access. So could you briefly explain the differences between hybrid, gold, green, and diamond open access?
Yes, of course. So what really was important to us in writing the article is the fact that open access publication practices currently lead to inequality. So that was really what we wanted to address. And in order to understand how that works, you really need to understand how open access is financed. And so that's what we explained in the article. And so historically, of course, we've had journals that were closed access, so they operate a membership-driven system. Libraries or individuals become a member, and then you have access because you paid. And if you didn't pay your membership, then you wouldn't have access. And then when the open movement gained traction, in many fields, what you saw is that journals became gold open access journals, which means that all their articles are open access after paying a fee, so-called author processing charges. So you pay a one-off fee, and then your article will be open access, infinitively. But then in our field, the field of languages, and even broader humanities, what's happened is that the existing journals have started to operate hybrid systems. So they've continued their subscription-based systems, but offered in addition the option to pay this one-off fee to make your paper open access. And so many of our journals are hybrid, not gold, even though they will say they are gold. But strictly speaking, these journals aren't gold. That's only true for some of the papers in these journals. The gold journals are journals like PLOS ONE and Frontiers, who really operate fully open access journals. And then the difficulty with this is that you have to pay to get your paper openly available. And of course, as soon as money is involved, inequality arises, especially if the amounts that are charged are really incredibly high, because they really are. So the hybrid journals in our field have always had a very dominant position in the market, and they've used this dominant position to actually charge high amounts, higher than the gold open access journals do. And so instead of reducing inequality, I feel that the current system is almost increasing the level of inequality, not in terms of access to journals, but especially in terms of the ability to publish your own work openly. So that has become more, I think, more and more difficult for people who are in situations where there's not a lot of support for paying these fees. And so the solution is diamond open access. And diamond open access is where authors do not pay fees. So you don't pay membership and there's no fee. It's all entirely free. But this, of course, means that the funding for publication has to come from elsewhere because it does cost money. It doesn't have to cost much. That's also what we sketch in our article. But it does cost money. So you do need some income as a journal in order to be able to publish. Yeah, so most diamond open access journals do this on the basis of on the basis of professional societies, right? So like ILA, like EUROSLA, like the British Association for Applied Linguistics. These are associations that generate membership fees, and on the basis of these membership fees, you could easily have diamond open access journals, which would make a lot of sense, I think. But unfortunately, many of these societies don't operate such journals. DUJAL is in the lucky position that we have ANELA, which is the Dutch Association of Applied Linguistics, behind us, and they are the ones that support open access through the membership fees that the members of ANELA pay. Yeah, I think that sort of explains the system now and why the system is problematic.
Yeah, I like you bring us to attention to the point that how difficult and expensive is it to actually not only get our work published, but also published as open access articles. And we really need more journals like the Dutch Journal of Applied Linguistics that offer diamond open access. And I think that links to the next question from Mo also.
Yeah, perhaps there's one thing that I may add, because what I didn't talk about is green open access, which is also a way of open access publishing, which is basically posting your pre and post prints somewhere in an open archive, which is in essence a very good thing, because at least people can now access papers that are not open. However, the problem with that, as well as with read and publish agreements, is that it puts a stop on change. So you'd want cheaper open access systems and diamond open access systems. But if we continue to basically publish wherever we want and just make our papers available as pre and post prints, nothing's ever going to change. And that's why I have some problems with it, even though I do it myself, of course, if my work is were not to be open, although I try to be as open as I can. But ultimately, it's a stop on change. So I encourage it, but it's also important to be aware that if you can go to a diamond open access journal, that is to be preferred a lot. Yes.
Yeah.
I also really appreciate the point about green open access. This is a really sort of a refreshing perspective because usually people think, okay, so we can go for the green OA route and then just, go business as usual. But we know that's not going to, lead to the actual change we want. We may, stay in the state forever. But still, maybe that's a conversation for later. But as an early career researcher, I do feel also the need for temporary solutions such as this, because we do need to sort of find a balance between the structural constraints and the kind of the future that we want. And also I wanted to thank you for sort of clarifying the differences between different types of open access. I think there are a lot of misconceptions or stereotypes around what open access is. And of course, you mentioned it in your paper as well. And that's also one of the major barriers to more wider adoption of especially diamond open access, because sometimes people confuse, the different types, like we may get into the topic about predatory journals later in our conversation, things like that. So there's a lot of confusion about that. And that's sort of stopping, especially more I don't know, established or senior researchers from, so recognizing the value of this type of publishing model. Yeah, we can, of course, engage in that conversation with the audience about that if people are interested. Now, the next question on my list is actually about one of your central arguments. You said that there is a moral obligation to make research outputs accessible. And I wonder if you could sort of clarify that or maybe elaborate on that a little bit for our audience.
Yes, yeah, this is really very much about we have the moral obligation because our current system leads to inequality, which I've explained, I think, a little bit already, but there are all kinds of moral imperatives. There's the taxpayers' money argument, right? So our research is mostly publicly funded, and so then the output should also be publicly available. It's as simple as that, I think. And actually, I'm not sure if you have the same experience, but I also actually get complaints. I was at a birthday party and someone, an uncle wanted to do some research and was just not able to access papers and said, why is everything behind the paywall? I think that illustrates it nicely. People want access to the work that we do, so we need to give it to them. And then, so there's the equality argument. Every work, all the work that we do should be available to everyone. But it's not just about availability. Everyone should also be able to make their work publicly available. That's really what Diamond Open Access is about. It's not about open access per se, but about being able to publish open access and for everyone to have that ability. And then, of course, there's the quality argument, which is that open access just leads to much better science. It leads to, because everything is available, you can review each other's work, each other's instruments, you can look at each other's data. So you can start where someone else left off, you can reuse materials, you can avoid pitfalls that people stepped in, you can start collaborations with people whose work you like. So it leads just to a much more efficient and better, higher quality science. So that's a very moral imperative, I think, too, that we try to make our work as good as we possibly can make it.
Yeah, thank you for bringing this out. And my next question is also about the central argument, although you have touched it a bit already, and it's about the commercialization of open access. How does it contribute to systematic inequality? You just elaborate on how systematic inequality happen. Can you talk a little bit more about the commercialization of open access, how publishers actually make money?
Yeah. So the commercialization is that publishers and many others have started to realize that there's a lot of money to be earned from open access, because many of us need to publish, and so many of us are willing to pay to publish. And many societies, for example, in the Netherlands, but in many places, we have the Dutch Society, the Dutch Academic Society, basically, which unites all the Dutch universities, and they have struck read and publish agreements with many of the large publishers, and so they pay huge amounts of money so that I can publish my work open access and don't have to pay the fee. Which in some cases, we also describe this in the article, have effectively led to publication costs of one article that amount to 10,000 euros, because these read and publish agreements are so publishable that if you then look at how many papers are actually published, that they boil down to 10,000 euros or dollars per paper, which is ridiculous. And then, of course, there are many people, I don't know whom exactly, who've simply started journals and invited people to publish in these journals without good credentials, I guess. So it's unclear where those journals are based, who are behind these journals, whether what's true that's being said on the websites of these journals. I think we all get these invitations, at least I get them daily, asking me to publish somewhere, because there's a lot of money in it, and I guess it works because many of us also have well, we work in environments where it's important to make sure that you publish every now and then. And so if you can simply pay for that, then that's potentially easy, but it leads to science entering the field that is potentially also of low quality. So there's all kinds of problems with this that we need to address. So open access is such a good thing, but this possibility to earn and to earn well off science is really worrisome, I think, on many levels.
Yeah, absolutely agree with your statement. And as you mentioned briefly in your paper as well about this, like I think now publishers are getting even smarter in sort of their commercialization models. Like they offer free access for a couple of years, and then once they accumulate sort of prestige and stuff like that, they start charging people, start raising their APCs and things like that. So
Yes.
that makes it, yeah.
They use their huge networks to they're able to launch journals into existence and make sure that these journals gain a good reputation in a very fast way, and then they're established, and then they simply close off the journal, and it's becomes a hybrid journal, and we have yet another journal that really adds to the inequality rather than solves it. So yeah, we should really stop doing that. If you're attempted to launch a journal, make sure it's diamond. I think that's really important. Yeah.
Yeah, I totally agree. But considering like so many incentives existing, I wonder how feasible do you think it is for the field of applied linguistics to transition to diamond open access on a larger scale?
Yeah, that's a good question. It's a very difficult question, but I would say in theory, it's very feasible, because if journals thrive, it's really only because we make it thrive. We are writing the articles, we do the reviews, we do the editorships, we put lots and lots of time in all these journals, and this also means that we have all the power in a sense. If we simply stop doing this, then we've beaten the system in a way. And so in theory, it's that simple. But of course, in practice, it's not, because we're in a system that doesn't allow us, or at least it doesn't allow us to do this easily, to break away from the system that we're in. So many of us are in tenure systems, so we rely for our careers on publications in journals that are reputable and have high quality. We're in this publisher perish culture often, at least many of us are. So every year people are looking if we've published enough. And so that makes it difficult to step out. And what's also difficult, I guess, is that it's incredibly flattering to be asked to be an editor for such a highly reputable journal. So that's also a very nice career move. So it's very difficult to say no to these kinds of things. And so that's what makes it difficult to break away from it. But in theory, it's simple. If we all sort of agreed as a field, let's stop doing this now. well, then we could do that. But then, of course, we would need to, and that's the very first step that we really need to work on, is to make sure that there are alternatives. Because we will need to continue to publish, of course, that's important. And so we need alternatives to the journals that are now there, or make sure that they somehow become diamond.
Yeah, I like how you talk about we actually have the power, and we are actually in different roles. We are writers, we editors and reviewers to do that. And also, given that there's so many of us taking different roles in applied linguistics, and also this is a applied field that our research could have pedagogical implications. My question is, what role do you see for different people in our field, such as researchers, editors, reviewers, authors, and teachers, to collaboratively to promote equitable open access practices?
Yeah, well, I see a role for each and every one of them, and I think the most important thing is that everything starts with awareness, I guess, and so that we are aware that the publication choices that we make do have consequences, in a sense, that so that you're aware that you try to make sure that everyone has access somehow. That is important, but I think trying investigating whether there's an option for your paper to be published in a diamond journal could be a step that you can take. And so in every role there's things you can do if you keep in the back of your mind that this is important. So for researchers, what they can do is focus on making every step in their research process as transparent as possible. I think so. This is not just about publication, but also about the other steps, your instrumentation, your data, whatnot. For editors, it depends. I guess it depends on where you are. I guess the question here is that you can think about what journals you want to edit for. So you can think about what is the publisher behind the journal that I'm tempted to edit for, and what is the reputation of this publisher. And of course, many of us don't have the luxury, but if you can choose, you could try to choose to edit for a diamond journal or support a diamond journal. Same thing for reviewers. And I acknowledge that this is very difficult because it's so hard to also know which journals are good journals and which journals are predatory journals. But you could give precedence to journals that are diamond or that are open access, that have a good policy over journals that don't. So many of us get many reviewing requests, perhaps, in considering how to divide your time. Keeping this in your mind would really help. Authors, same thing. Think about where you take your journal. Is it possible to go to a diamond open access journal? Sometimes it may be, sometimes it's not, because because of these career concerns or whatnot. And of course, teachers, I'm especially thinking about teachers in research programs, making sure that open access is also very much taught as a skill that you need as a researcher. Yeah. Does that answer your question?
Yes, absolutely. And we also we are glad to see a question in the chat from Fabio, saying that he's a teacher, a private independent teacher of English as a foreign language, and he was wondering how your thoughts about the role of open access in his job.
In his job. And he's a teacher of English as a foreign language? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I can imagine that the importance here is really the ability to access research. This is something that we've thought a lot about in the context of OASIS, which is about making research accessible, not only in terms of physically accessible, but also conceptually accessible. But I can imagine that as a teacher or a teacher team, you have questions sometimes about, say, how do I give written feedback? And then you'll want to be able to access the newest insights. And so then open access really becomes important. If you don't work in an institute, if you're not working at a university, basically, then access can be a real hindrance in terms of trying to inform yourself about how should I change my practice? What does research say about this, and how can research help me reflect on my teaching practice? So I think that's the relevance here. Potentially, in terms of really publication, I'm not sure to what extent, as a teacher, you would publish a lot. So in that sense, it's Diamond Open Access is less important. It's more about open access rather than a Diamond Open Access. Yeah.
Sure. Thank you for this answer about the ability to access research for teachers. Is increasingly crucial, and we also see a hand raise from the audience. Yeah.
Hi.
I was wondering. Yeah. Please go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to thank Professor Sible for the great article, a very exciting topic, and the content was really great. And the way you looked at open science, I think it was brilliant. I had a question, Professor Sible. Did you receive any feedback from the publishers showing any reaction to this idea of diamond publishing and diamond access to the articles?
So our publisher is openjournals.nl, which is a platform entirely devoted to Diamond Open Access. So yes, we did receive a response, and they were really happy with it because it supports their cause as well. So this platform is actually funded by the Dutch Academic Society is behind it, and so they really try to promote Diamond Open Access. Yeah,
but other publishers, I mean, like Benjamin, Wiley.
No, Benjamin's, they were really, yeah, we left Benjamin's and they were upset about that, I think. But it was also ultimately they gave us an ultimatum. They said either you conform to our publishing model, or we can't work together. And then we said, well, then we are gone. And so, but that was a few years ago. That was not in response to this paper. But yeah, this is a threat to many commercial publishers. I get that. But if publishers continue to ask as much as they do, then yeah, I don't feel sorry.
Yeah, I think it's so much daring, and yeah, I took the first steps. I think maybe this is what the publishers would be accepting again and again as we go on. Shall I ask one more point?
Sure.
I was very much thrilled when I looked at the article history. It was submitted in February, I think. Yeah, February, and it was accepted in February. How did it work like that?
Yeah, you're referring to the article history that's in
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah, so this is because this was normally it wouldn't work like that. But this is because it was a paper written by ourselves. So we are the board. And so those 2 days then align. But normally they wouldn't. There would be a few months between them. Yeah, but it's because we wrote it ourselves as a board. Yeah.
I see. Maybe this question is not very much relevant, but maybe we can take some actions like this. I want to know what you think about not publishing the articles that do not find significant findings. I want to see what your reaction to this is.
Not publishing articles that do not.
Usually the journals
Okay.
do not accept the articles that do not report significant findings.
Yeah. This is unfortunate. Although we should be nuanced about that as well, because you really, I think papers with null results can be very, very valuable and deserve publication. Even though their impact may not be as big as papers that do publish significant findings. And I think this is why potentially such papers have a difficulty of being published, because the idea is, well, probably the impact is lower and this will affect our impact rate as a journal. And so let's decline. I think you should accept, but of course, you really need to look at the quality of the work. So that's always important. But if you feel that the paper reports on good quality research and then publishes no results, then that's fine. And I have no problems doing that. And we do that. But it's important to, of course, look at the work that's reported.
Sure. So as the editor of the journal, if an article is accepted like that, you would get a look at the content rather than immediately desk reject that.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for the great questions and answers. Thank you.
Welcome.
Yeah, I guess as we have done the most questions on our list, and I think it's time to open for the audience to raise questions. And I noticed already 2 questions in the chat. So first is from Jinlan, and she is an advocate for open research, and she's doing her utmost to make materials, data, and articles openly accessible to others. However, on the other hand, what she can currently afford is to pursue green open access by sharing the postprints of her works, provided it does not violate the rules of the journals. And she's keen on opt for open diamond access, but her publications are evaluated by her university, which emphasize the impact of the journals. It would be a waste if she submitted her article to a journal without a high impact factor, even if it has done an excellent job in promoting open diamond access. So she is unsure how to navigate this dilemma, and she's wondering if you could offer some advice for career researchers like her who desperately needs the currency of publication in high impact factor journals, but also wants to do good in open research.
No, well, yeah. My advice would be, I don't think you should damage your own career. So the advice for you, I think, would be investigate if there is a journal that has a good standing and that is Diamond Open Access. If there is such a journal, then you could try to go to it. There are some journals that are really emerging. Studies in Second Language and Learning and Teaching, I think, is one. I'm not entirely sure how those are qualified now, but there are some are emerging as as better journals, because they've been around for a while and gaining better impact factors. But if you can't find such a journal, then I would see if you can somehow make your work open access, either through paying a fee or doing what you've done, go via green routes. So in your situation as an early career scholar, this is just very difficult, and this is also why we emphasize in the paper that it's not up to early career scholars to drive the change. It's really up to scholars that don't need publications in A-rated journals, that can really easily go for other kinds of journals. And if they do, if senior scholars do, then their reputations and their established reputations really also contribute a lot to Diamond Open Access journals gaining value and reputation themselves. So it's really through senior scholars, I feel, that we can drive the change. And it's really not on your shoulders. So you try to do what you can, and I think you are trying, and that's wonderful, and just keep it up. But don't let this harm your career. That shouldn't be on your shoulders. Meng, you've written about this as well in your response, and I really like your analogy of the bystander and the martyr. So you don't want to stand by, but you definitely also want to become the martyr. So being the one who goes for Diamond Open Access, but then ultimately having problems in building a good career. So this needs to be a collective effort, and a collective effort that is driven by people that are in a position to do so without it harming their careers.
Great. And the second question is from Malike. Sorry about the pronunciation. She says that many thanks, Dr. Professor Andringa, for advocating open access publications. She is a third-year PhD student of applied linguistics at University of South Florida. She tries to educate and familiarize herself with the concept of open access publication. And in the article, you highly encourage senior scholars to take a step in and advocate for the change in the system. As a PhD student new to publishing, what challenges do you foresee in advocating for or implementing Diamond Open Access? How can we train ourselves for the field with this mindset?
Ooh, it's I guess I addressed this a little bit in my previous comment. I think it's awareness. It's just keeping in the back of your mind that Diamond Open Access is an option, and it's the preferred option. And so I guess as a PhD student, it's also something that you can raise, right? If you have supervision meetings or to really put open access on the agenda, because this is also an issue. Many of the senior scholars weren't trained in or weren't educated in an era of open science. I'm not that old, I'm almost 50, but for me too, everything, when I was a PhD, everything was closed. I went to the journal to get physical copies of journals, and that's how many people were trained, and things have really changed. And as a PhD student, what you can do is actually point out that there are different options, and you can perhaps nudge your supervisors a little bit towards open access journals and Diamond Open Access journals.
Yeah, I just wanted to jump in on that because I think the awareness is definitely key. I want to actually share one of my personal experience. So I recently had a paper about open access publishing in language teaching. Sorry, not language teaching, language testing. And then during the peer review process, actually, we were advocating for Diamond OA publishing. And then one of the reviewer comments was that the reviewer was actually not aware of any high caliber journals that is Diamond open access, and that was actually part of the open peer review, so people can check out the record if you're interested. And we were really sort of shocked by that kind of statement, and but it really shows like how deep the problem is. Like we really need to raise the awareness for people to recognize like actually there are excellent journals that are already Diamond open access, and we can already see quite a few of them being mentioned in the chat as well, like language learning technology and things like that. And other journals are also emerging, like Sible just mentioned. So we should really sort of do more in this area to just let people know that actually the quality is really not about the publishing model, right? So these are sort of separate things, and you can't just, you need to disentangle sort of low caliber journals and open access publishing.
Actually, Ali Al-Houri, if you go to his response, he keeps a list of Diamond open access journals, which can be very useful if you're looking for a place to publish.
Yeah, let me just dig up the link and share in the chat.
Yeah, in the meantime, if we still have got about 5 minutes, if anyone has any other questions, please feel free to raise it.
No more questions.
I think it's because you have already answered many of the points very clearly. Oh, Maddie has a question. Hi, Maddie. Would you be able to? Yeah.
Yes. Thank you, Dr. Andringa, Professor Andringa, for a really great and clear presentation. I have this picture in my mind, but I want to ask if I am right about this picture. I think this open access and everything is, I mean, it's just surrounded with problems. On the one hand, as you mentioned in your article, there is the issue of financial sustainability. And on the other hand, we are now talking about publishing in open access journals, and then we should also consider some researchers, like, for example, I am an independent researcher, and I am really interested in doing secondary research studies, but I am based in Iran, and the problems that I have are not one or two. I mean, from one point, I do not have access to lots of articles. On the other hand, as an independent researcher, again, it is really, I cannot afford getting the access to the articles. And then there are some publications and journals which are, I think, they can be labeled as predatory journals. And on the other hand, national policy has filtered many websites, and if I want to search some key terms, I cannot have access to those websites. I mean, it's just loaded with a lot of problems. And I think this open access should be considered from different aspects. I mean, different teams should consider different aspects. Like one is for the researchers who want to use the articles. The other one is for the publishers who want to publish some articles. And the other one should focus this financial sustainability, because as you mentioned in your article, again, there are some services that journals have to pay for, like editing services and also some other, I mean, matters that they need financial sustainability. So for me, as an independent researcher, it was pretty difficult to have access to articles, and it has been really discouraging. I mean, one reason that I could not conduct any research synthesis, that was because I did not have direct access to articles, and it was pretty difficult to gain one. But again, if at least I try to find some articles that can be good for me, I'm not really sure if the work that I'm doing is worth publishing in a good article, in a good journal or not. So I might have to, I mean, I might have to be pushed to publish my work in some journals, which can be then labeled as regulatory. Do you have any advice for any independent researchers to have, more physical access to articles? I mean, one thing that really helped me was this ResearchGate articles, postprints, and it was really helpful. I mean, but recently, as I can see, most of the articles, they need to be requested for being downloaded. Some articles that I recently, for 1 month that I am checking, they are not openly available. And I was wondering if the policy has changed or anything. Could you please give us some advice or your insights on this?
Oh, to be honest, I think that's a very difficult question. I guess you're in a very difficult position if you're not liaised with an institution that allows you access to research. And it's very valuable that you're offering this perspective, because I think it really shows the problem. It's a problem of open access. It's a problem that many of us don't feel because we are in universities, and so we can just access all the research that we need, and we just have no problems. But this is what it's like if you're not in such a position. And there are many people that are interested in our research who are not affiliated with universities. So I'm afraid I don't have advice. I don't think there's an easy solution to your position, but it does show how important open access is and still is. Yeah, so I'm sorry, I can't be helpful, but thanks for the comment.
Thank you so much. In fact, when there are some problems, we should address them scientifically. I think open access is really valuable for a lot of people, probably not today, but it can pave the path for the future researchers. And it really needs attention and focus on, a collaborative attention on that. Thank you so much.
Welcome.
Thank you so much, everyone, and also for the questions and comments. And I think we will all learn a lot during the past hour. And thank you so much, Sible, again for joining us and answering all kinds of questions, both personal and also personal to our situation, and also more general to the field. We really appreciate that. And so, well, I would just shout out to the audience that please do check out our Diamond Open Access Journal, Dutch Journal of Applied Linguistics. And Sible just published this wonderful article, and there are several responses there, and we will try to invite the authors of the response to our reading club. So please keep an eye on our, social media, etc. And thank you so much for your interest and participation. Yeah, have a good day, and I hope you see you soon next time. Yeah, thank you.
Thanks for the invitation, and thanks all for coming. It was really nice.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
But before you go, I wonder, I'm not sure if you have seen this, but I really like what the audience has said about, thanking you for stepping up and making this statement so publicly, and to the organizers. So making this statement publicly, I think that really matters a lot, because a lot of people have been thinking about this, but until now we have seen, actual publications on this topic in our field. So that's really wonderful. And thank you so much for doing that.
Yeah, most welcome. And I guess it's because I'm in a position I can do this easily. The Dutch system is not so heavily on ref, right? So the publication is important, but they're not very big on whether it's A or B or whatnot. So and so for my career, I'm really not so dependent on where I publish, especially, and so this is valued, and that makes it possible for me also to do this. I'm aware that in different contexts, it would be, even writing an article like we did, I guess, might be difficult. Yeah. So thanks again for inviting me. It was really fun.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you so much. See
Thank
you.
you. Bye-bye.
See you.
Bye.